Fine. So my name is Kevin Godin. I'm the president of the NFDA. Welcome everybody to our Conquering Hiring and Retention Challenges panel discussion. I'm sure all of us are acutely aware of the challenges that we're going to discuss today. I'd like to thank all of the sponsors who support the event: Brighton-Best International, an NFDA Platinum Premier Partner; Jalen Franco Fastener Sisters, and then NFDA Silver Premier Partner; Worth Industries North America, an NFDA Silver Premier Partner; B West Fasteners, Copper State Bolt Nut, Eurolink Fastener Supply Service, Field Fastener, IFE Americas, Mid-States Bolt and Screw, Sems and Specials, Star Stainless, WTC IT Services, Vertex Distribution. So thank you to all of them for their support. Now I'd like to go ahead and introduce our panelists for today. Matt Boyd with Parker Fasteners, Rosa Hearn with Brighton-Best, Tim O'Keefe with GL Huyett, and Tina Rittner with Field Fastener. Thank you. And today, Kelly Charles will be our moderator for the event. And now we'll turn it over to Kelly.
Perfect. All right. Hi, everybody. Now, during the event, everybody is going to be muted except for the panelists and myself, but please utilize the chat box with any questions you'd like presented to the panel. And now we will go ahead and start with Tim O'Keefe.
Great to see everybody, and appreciate everybody joining the call. We've kind of put a nice panel together here. It's been pointed out that each of us kind of present a different perspective to the industry, and that Rosa represents the perspective of an importer. Matt represents the perspective of a manufacturer. We're kind of a hybrid manufacturer, master distributor, and Tina represents a distributor. So hopefully we'll be able to provide some contrast to some of the various different roles and different positions in our company to try to help everybody out. I would just offer to start that I think one of the things that's most important is to consider whether or not or how talent resides within your company's core values and strategy. In that it's very hard to recruit tactically and retain people tactically if that's not part of your core mission. And so I think, one of the bits I'd offer to start with is that I think that talent needs to be, needs to be part of your strategy. And if you buy into that, typical things that, will need to happen in order for that to occur is you'll probably on some basis need some sort of functional human resources team. Some companies will have to outsource portions of that, but if you can, I think it's better to try to have that resource internally. The second thing is that there needs to be managerial accountability to follow through on recruiting. And that I think one of the things that really impairs successful recruiting is when a candidate gets snagged up internally inside your hiring systems, and maybe hiring managers are not doing the next interview or the next step, and you're stalling the candidate in your process. And that can lead to the candidate becoming disillusioned or disenfranchised with the opportunity to work for your company. And then I think the other thing that you need to do is be sure you have a process workflow that's defined and everybody in your firm understands, where the candidate is at in that workflow and who's next on deck, so that, you don't have those misses, if you will, in the process. Because right now talent is kind of like the old musical chairs. The music's playing, and as soon as the music stops, there's going to be a chair left over, and you want to make sure that you're not stuck without a chair when it comes to hiring. And then lastly, have some sort of training, especially around interviewing and review resumes. So with that in mind, I'll turn it over to Rosa for her input next.
Yeah, well, hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here. Just like you, Brighton-Best is looking for people. We need warehouse workers, a branch manager, sales support, you name it. We're probably looking for it, mainly because we're growing. But it's hard to compete when there's 9.1 million job vacancies open across the United States. 4 million of those is because people left their jobs, whether it's relocation, remote working, people have parents with digital learning. Some are just reevaluating their lives. I mean, it's like coronavirus, like, you get to find out what your priorities are. So when you're looking for that, you go, okay, how do I compete? Because you have the behemoths like Amazon, offering like higher wages, signing bonuses, brand name companies that are, giving like full tuition. I mean, even like fast food places are doing all kinds of stuff to get people in. And I think we should fight back with culture. Okay. And what I mean by that is because when you put up job posting, they're boring. You need to spice it up. Stop with the Fastener need Fastener experience for 3 years. Like, really doesn't matter. Like, we can train that, so spice it up. If you're looking for customer service, then put, hey, I'm looking for hospitality. Are you good at hospitality? If your culture offers like Fridays off or, half day Fridays, then put that in your advertising. If your culture says, hey, you know what, I'm going to give you benefits if you're a part-time worker, put that in your advertising. If your culture says, you know what, we offer flex time, even if you're a warehouse worker, that you can work 4 hours in the morning or 4 hours in the afternoon, then put that in your advertising, because that's how we're going to get people. People are willing to take a chance with small companies if they align with what they're trying to do. So, I make an effort to actually go to community colleges, and because community colleges actually have internships. So you can go in and do a flyer. And when you're going to give them a flyer of a posting, make sure you put images of people that you want to hire. So if you want to hire more women, then put a woman in your photo, a real person. If you want to hire more DEI, diverse people, then put diverse people in your postings, because people want to see themselves. People want to know why you get up in the morning, why you're passionate. I mean, when I talk to the warehouse people outside at Brighton-Best, I tell them, I go, did you know these screws go into stadiums? Did you know that these rivets actually go into like, with the roadies, for concerts? They get excited. They get like a little glimpse of pride. Like, this is what I want to do. And so, share that with them, because not only it will help you retain them, but it will actually help bring people in. Now, here's a couple of things. So I thought of some ideas like, okay, let's bring in the stay-home parents, the ones that are working, then maybe offering contract work where like they can take parts home, kit them, and then bring them back and earn a paycheck that way. We actually work with a company called EXP where they bring in internships, and I actually hired an accounting person that way. So we understand that right now we need warehouse workers too. So we work with organizations that help with disability. So in Chicago, there's a company called Clearbrook, and in Southern California, we use ARC South Bay. And so they work with people that actually help with disabilities and earn a paycheck, earn a living, help them with life skills. And so they bring them in, we help them, they help us, we help them. And it's a great community until we can actually bring people in. So, okay, that's my speech, sorry.
Perfect.
Great.
All right, we'll have Matt speak next, please.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Matthew Boyd, Parker Fasteners. We're a manufacturer of socket head cap screws and related specials in Arizona. Regarding conquering hiring, I think, my former employer, Fastenal, really taught me a lot of the skills that we use here today, which is, we're always looking for people, even if we don't need them at the moment. We always have our eyes out. So, my business partner, Robert, the president of the company, we recently hired the technician to fix his cable. He came out to fix some issues at his house. And, next thing you know, 4 weeks later, he's at Parker Fasteners as a production employee. We're always looking. I met someone just the other day at a birthday party, and we hired them as well. So, it's okay if you're not, just going to the standardized places to find people. You really have to think outside the box, and especially in today's market, to Rosa's point, the competition for new talent is fierce. But, and I'll talk about it a little bit later, what the replacement costs are to replace employees that you lose. But we always keep a pipeline, and, like Tim said, you don't want to string people out, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you tell them exactly where you stand and that you have a pipeline of candidates that are interested in working for you at all times. We're always planning for the future as well. So all the managers within our business meet weekly, and we discuss the needs, current states of employees. And if we have, or we anticipate some changes, we're always trying to get ahead of it as much as possible. Another thing, just staying in touch, with all your recruiting sources, whether it be technical schools, community colleges. We even use job placement companies as well to make sure that we have a good, fresh pipeline of people that we're meeting. On the retention side, you really have to have good balance with your leaders in the business. So you got to make sure that, I'm a salesperson by nature. So, I try to treat my staff as if they're another customer. There's going to be customers that you all have that you wish they interacted with you a little bit differently. And if they asked you, you'd actually, be comfortable telling them ways that they could, make everyone's jobs a little bit easier and grow your business together. But don't be afraid to sit down with an employee that you have on staff right now and invest in them and pour in them and show that, they can make more money if they do these certain things better, more efficiently. I did some research this morning. It's about on average a 200% replacement cost to, when you lose someone and you have to rehire a new person and train them. So it's definitely something that, retaining employees is very important. It can definitely, run your expenses up by not retaining, especially the A players in your businesses. What we're seeing to keep our retention up is just, treat, employees like they're a vital part of the business, and if they're not, invest in them to make them a vital part of your business. I mentioned it before, but strong leadership is so important. You really have to make sure you have a good flow of and a good amount. If you have one manager that have 30 reports, more than likely they're going to lose some employees this year because one manager with 30 reports cannot keep a close relationship and truly give the leadership that that those employees need. So and the last thing I want to mention is having a good incentive plan, not just for salespeople, but for all people across the business. If you can create some KPIs and show improvements and show that the business is going in the right direction, don't be afraid to incentivize those employees that are making the difference. Share the rewards, and you shall see some improvements with your retention. So that's what I have. Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks, Matt. All right, and Tina.
Thank you, Kelly. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tina Rittner. I'm the Director of HR for Field Fastener in Machesney Park, is where we're based, Illinois. And I just want to share a few things. I think that we can all agree this year especially has been super challenging with finding great candidates that are out there. And certainly there's been a large amount of turnover, I think, across all industries. And there's a number of research and publications out there talking about the turnover tsunami and things like that. And certainly has not spared us at Field either. Historically, our turnover has been very, very low in the single digits. And this year, in really early in the year, February, March timeframe, we experienced a very high number of team members leaving for us. Our turnover jumped up to about 14%. And it was very alarming for us and the majority of the team, trying to get our arms around that and understand some of the reasonings why some of the team was choosing to do that. And the reasons really varied. And I think that really kickstarted our initiative into digging into that a little bit further, making sure that we were gathering feedback from our team about what was driving some of those things. Certainly exit interviews has always been a standard process for us, but we really dove into that a little bit further and asked not only our team members that were choosing to leave, but also the rest of the team, especially more here recently, what are some of the factors or the drivers that they think could be affecting that. I think that goes into having open communication with the team and being transparent about the challenges that we have as a business, along with the things that are going really well. And getting some of those things out on the table and discussing it and then taking action on that. With regards to recruitment, our goal is and has always been to find the best possible candidates that we can come on board, so that we don't have turnover issues or things like that. And so there's a number of different things that we do to help that. First off is to be really clear on what types of skill set and behavior components and personality components are most important to us, and making sure that the candidates that we interview and ultimately bring on board are the best possible culture fit for field, and that you know, they're going to be happy in their role, they're going to be happy with the culture that we provide and the team that's around them. So making sure that you are really clear on those couple things before you even start recruiting and interviewing is very critical. I would also say, and this was mentioned previously, but making sure that you've got quick communication with your candidates and that it's frequent. We have a fairly small HR team. There's 3 of us that have shared responsibility for recruiting, and we make it a point to go through all of our job openings on a daily basis and pull candidates on a daily basis and make sure that we are staying in touch with them, providing feedback on their status of where they're at in the assessment or interview process. And we also make sure that if we find a candidate that has a really good culture fit and seems like they would fit in with the team really well, but maybe they're not fully up to speed on the skill set that we're looking for, we still consider them, or we may keep them on hand for future openings. And we've done that a few different times, and that has worked really well. So making sure that you're staying in touch with your candidates and providing them updates has been very helpful. And then this was also mentioned before, but I think it's super important, is making sure that in the advertising and in the communication that you have with your candidates, making sure that it's very clear what sets your company apart from others. For field, it is the culture aspect, it is the work environment that we offer, and we make sure that those things are covered on our website and during the initial phone calls that we have with candidates that apply. So that keeps the interest going. It helps spread the word, making sure that you have a really good reputation in the areas that you're recruiting.
Very nice. All right, thanks, Tina. All right, so we'll get started with some of the questions that we have in the chat and some questions that I just personally have. First question is, what is the best way to recruit remotely when local networking is not an option?
Was that addressed to somebody specific or?
No, that was just a general question.
I guess I infer that would refer to a situation in which somebody is recruiting like for a remote operation and they don't have an operation there, as opposed to they're working from home and recruiting to an office. So I think if my interpretation is correct, I think Tina might have insight in that with some of Field's multiple locations. Maybe Tina, you have something to shed on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a few different locations that are out there, and we also have some small groups of team members that are working on site at some of our customer locations. And the thing that is really, I would say, worked best for us in filling those types of positions is to make sure that, and this maybe sounds kind of basic, but to make sure that we're using a Teams feature or some type of video component when it comes to the interview process. I think that has made a big difference for us, especially in the last year and a half. I think prior to that, it may not have been something that a lot of people were comfortable with, but that has certainly helped make sure that, again, in that remote situation, that we get a visual on the individual and have some of those nonverbal components to that as well before we make a final decision. Also too, going out and if the opening is close to one of our other locations, we'll go travel there and perhaps do an on-site job fair for a day or something like that, where we can try and do that close to one of our existing locations that we have.
I would infer that Rosa might have something to add to that. I will just offer that if the question is centered on how to recruit when your HR team is working from home, the answer is it's not going to work. And I think that kind of leads to a question I see here from Adam Derry. regarding stress. And I think, one of the things that people need right now is they need personal contact. And when you're recruiting, you're not hiring robots, you're hiring human beings. And so, if the nature of the question is to try to recruit from working from home, that dog's not going to hunt. I think you need to be arranging personal contacts and such. And I have a feeling Rosa might have something to offer this, and Matt, maybe you as well. But you can't hire trying to sit at home. You got to get out there and touch and feel people on some basis.
So there's actually organizations out there, depending on what you're trying to recruit for remote. If you're looking for a tech job, like somebody in IT, for example, you can, there's Fairy God Boss, where you can actually submit a posting. There's meetup.com. People think of meetup as like, let's go hiking together with a group of friends or biking, but you can actually use that for networking and actually meet up, somebody that's actually looking for a job. You do a Zoom call, you say, hey, you know what, I'm looking for a remote person doing this. So there's actually websites out there that help you meet up people looking for remote jobs. You just have to find them.
Yeah, and then I'll add to that. We recently hired someone remotely, and we did extensive multiple interviews with different people within the business with that candidate many different times, and actually it was different candidates. But when we came down to the final two, we actually did bring them in to our business here in Arizona and did that personal touch to make sure that it was going to be the right fit. So it is difficult to do it remotely, but Zoom, we don't do it just with phone calls only. We definitely have a video component, so we can, do our best to get as far as we can and to the point of bringing someone in.
Great, thank you. All right, next question, for the panel, do you have any suggestions for books or social media to assist with company culture building?
Okay, I want to address something real quick. Companies don't change, okay? People do. So companies have their policies and procedures, and they're going to keep it that way. And you got to find your champions, your culture champions, people that want to better for the company, because you're always going to have anchors, people that really don't want to change, that they're going to just drag you down. Leave them alone, because eventually those anchors will eventually come along. So just find your champions, find the people that actually want to do change, because it takes people to actually change an organization. And one person's not going to do it all by themselves, so they need tools and resources and, programs to be able to do this, and the ability to be able to make change, to build your culture in the way you want it to be. So find your champions. I was grateful to be a champion and say, you know what, this is what I'm looking for this company. And they let me be. And so I appreciated that, and I was able to help move them in a direction that I like to see.
So
I would just offer that when it comes to culture, it starts with what's your company's underlying value system, and that's going to form the basis in terms of how your culture is formed. At least for us, our value system here at J.L. Huyett is around servant leadership. So specific to a book, this is a book by James C. Hunter called The Servant Leader. And if you buy into that type of a concept of culture and leadership, that would be a book recommendation that I would make with respect to this question.
So I'm unlike Tim, I don't have the book in front of the screen that I can share. But employees are our number one asset. We can go buy new cold headers, we can buy any kind of piece of equipment. But, we need good people that understand the business and our customers to really drive our revenue. So employees are so important. The recommendation for a book that I would use is a simple book, but I like keeping things simple in a very complex world. It's The 1 Minute Manager by Ken Blanchard. We have a lot of newer people that are being asked to, take, just because they're not a manager doesn't mean that they don't have opportunities to lead. So understanding how to praise and how to reprimand the proper way is really important right now, because like Tina said, you can increase your turnover real quick, and it only takes really one bad apple to cause that. So having a culture of properly reprimanding, properly giving praise to employees is really important from the bottom to the top. So that's a book that I would recommend for the group.
And I would also add too, at Field a few years ago, we partnered with David Friedman and his organization called CultureWise. And he also has a book out there. It's actually under my laptop right now. It's called Fundamentally Different. And I would recommend that as a great read. It's really helped us further define our culture and have it tie back to our core values and mission statement, and really helped us create daily and weekly and monthly activities that help reinforce the culture that we have.
Thank you. All right, and we're going to get back to Adam's question because this is, the $5 question here. Stress from team members is at an all-time high with all these supply chain challenges. Do you have any tips or tricks to help team members manage their stress, reduce burnout, feel appreciated, and retain them? That's a lot. Because I think everybody's working at such a high pace right now, and we're having to do less with more people, and burnout is a real thing. So what do you guys think?
No, it is.
Yes, I would. Go ahead.
So it's funny because yesterday someone said, you know what, I'm really having a tough day. And I said, take a 2-hour lunch, take a 3-hour lunch. I let them have that break. Like, well, I don't want to say I let them, but I was able to cover their position in order for them to be able to take that break, because it is real, it is stressful. And I know it's appreciated if it was done the other way around. So I'm going to let people take their breaks, like, hey, if you need to take a break, get up and go. You know what I mean? If you need to maybe leave early a little bit, go ahead and go. We'll take care of it, because the work will always be there. The job, is always going to be there. And so, whether we're busy or not, it doesn't matter. Like, we're always going to have work and have something to do, and just go. You know what I mean? And so that's my advice, is like, if you need to take that extra hour or even 2, go for it.
And I would join in to what Rosa mentioned as well. I think a lot of it has to do with being aware of who on your team is stressed and is experiencing the heavier workload, and then working with them and talking through it to try to find out what could be the best solution. Is it, taking an afternoon off? Is it making sure that as their leader, you reinforce to them, hey, I don't want you logging in over the weekend to catch up on emails or catch up on work, and making sure that you're having those conversations with them to find out what could be the best option. One thing that we started offering here too in early summer was once a month, we partnered with a mental health professional, and he does a 1-hour lunch and learn session once a month on various topics around relieving stress and managing emotions and workloads and things like that. And that has really helped give some support to the team too.
The team.
I promise that I'm not a librarian here, but one of the things that I think that you all are going to start to hear more about is a concept called VUCA, V-U-C-A, and that stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. It's actually a concept grounded in military, and there's a book by Margaret Wheatley about how to manage through VUCA, which is what I think a lot of people are experiencing right now. The reason why their lives are so stressful is the uncertainty of COVID, the uncertainty of their job, the uncertainty of what's going to happen at school. They're going to shut school down, and so I think from a high level strategic basis, I would encourage you to consider reading up on this, because this book really does synthesize a lot of interesting concepts on how to manage from a more leadership level stress and chaos. From a tactical standpoint, this is something we've explored. We've not done it, but we're looking at it. There are chaplain services out there, and you can hire company chaplains. It's non-denominational. It's not necessarily religious, but has a spiritual overtone. And they'll walk through your operations, once a week, twice a week. And we've been studying that here at Joe Huyett. I've got a peer I know in Kansas City that does this. He's got about 1,000 employees, and it's gone spectacularly well for them. And they have, what's interesting, is quite a diverse religious workforce, in that they have Muslim folks from Thailand to Catholics to non-denominationals, even to atheists, because there's a lot of sensitivity about getting into religion. But a company chaplain might be helpful as well.
Very good statement, Tim. I agree with that. One thing I was going to mention is, we're some of us are working remotely, 2 to 3 days a week, and I make a point to touch base with all employees, daily, to make sure that I'm checking in not only on how they're doing, but it's a mental health check. Make sure that they aren't feeling overwhelmed. And to Rosa's point, encourage them to not work late, encourage them to take a break if they need it, go get some fresh air, and not, take too much on and have that weight on their shoulders. Another thing we've done is we've started increasing, those employee reviews. So instead of doing them once, sometimes twice a year, we're doing them like every quarter now, to really sit down and go, how's your workload? Do we need to make some changes to, what you're doing to make sure that the work-life balance is okay? So that's really helped out, because we've been able to identify some areas of improvement that we weren't quite aware of, and made those adjustments for the employees.
Thank you. All right, and now we've got a question from Mark Shannon, and this is one that I had myself. Entry-level positions are very difficult to fill. With constant changes to the minimum wage going on and going up, we run the risk of onboarding new hires on or about the same wage as current team members, resulting in us having to pay these team members more. Do you have experience in this, and how have you been dealing with it? Because those sign-on bonuses that I see, are a real thing. So.
Okay. A lot of people think it takes a lot of money to help this situation. And I think it's communication more than anything. Those employees that, have been with you, have been loyal, and, they see the new hires come in at the same rate maybe that they are, help them in other ways. I believe in the power of networking. So we know real estate agents, we know somebody that might be, in other fields. And what I mean by that is, does your employee have a special needs person? Then maybe bring somebody in to help them, educate or learn or what to do with special needs people. Are they looking to buy a home? Then do you know a real estate agent that maybe they can come in and have a conversation with them? I was telling Tim the other day that I really appreciated that he brought in like a debt person, or you have to help me, Tim. You have to bring in a debt person to help with their employees' debt, because it was a way to say, wow, this company is really helping me. It doesn't necessarily take money. They need help. They want recognition, and they need advice on certain things. How can I save on the money that I'm making? How can I help my children, build their future? How can I buy a home? How can I retire? So you bringing in your insurance agent that you usually already are using for your company, bring them in and say, let me help you with the retirement plan, because helping them in those ways doesn't really necessarily require money, but just time.
It's the Dave Ramsey course, and it's debt, D-E-B-T, not death.
Sorry.
Death.
Yeah. So, go ahead, Tim.
Go ahead. I was going to say, we have very specific experience with this. Back in March of this year, we raised our starting warehouse wage to $15 first shift, $16 second shift. My answer to Mark is, you can't bring people in at a new wage level and not deal with people at a current wage rate. I don't know how you can do that and not disincent your legacy workforce that are, by the way, more trained than the new people that you hire. We ended up taking about a $330,000 financial hit to raise the wages. We raised our wage scales up. So we had to take about a $330,000 hit to keep that delta of new hires versus current incumbent employees. And all I can tell you, it's been worth every penny of it. Our recruiting has been far more successful. And when you start measuring out the cost of training, cost of onboarding, cost of turnover, it's one of the best moves we ever made. But we had to write a $330,000 net to make it happen.
To Rosa's and Tim's point, and to answer Mark's question, yes, it's been a challenge. I think more than likely, I'm going to speak for everyone on the call. We've all experienced this issue with entry-level people wanting existing skilled wages. So what we've done is when we bring people in, we really try to promote our culture and why they want to come work for us long term. And then what we've done is we've asked for a 3-month trial. We're going to bring you in at an entry-level wage. We're going to give you 3 months to prove what you're capable of doing. And after 3 months, we're going to set your wage at that point. But to Tim's point too, we've had to do some adjustments as well to address the current situation with, we have 3 or 4 Amazons just right down the street. We have another company coming in that's going to hire 2,000 people across the street from us. So, we're very aware of the market and what's going on. And, as long as you treat people fair, you make them a part of the business, you give them incentives to do more. And, you have these powwows where you're talking to them and you're really connected. We'll be in fine shape. But, if you ignore employees, you ignore the market and what's going on around you, you will experience a lot of turnover.
I would agree with everything that's been said so far as well. And I think making sure that your compensation ranges for each position are looked at annually and updated as needed. We've done similar things as Tim and Matt mentioned. We've adjusted our starting rates for our hourly positions, and we have a range that we can work within. So we have a little bit of wiggle room if we have someone that's got more experience than others. So it's not necessarily a set number, it's a range that we can work within. And we've also made several adjustments to our existing team in really across all of our locations as well. And that has helped.
Kind of an extra part to that question. So if you are a company that is giving a sign-on bonus, are you doing anything for your existing employees if you're paying that bonus?
We're not doing that, so I can't speak to it.
Same here.
Right, same here. But we do offer a recruiting bonus, so if they help recruit people, then, after they've been here for, I believe it's 90 days, they actually get a bonus from us.
That's a great idea. So, okay.
Yeah, same with us. We don't do sign-on bonuses.
Good. So how do you guys see work from home and overall flexibility change going forward? Do you see your policies changing in this regard?
I feel like you almost can't go back. Once you get the taste of like remote working, like, hey, this is kind of like pretty good, so, you have to change with your times. If you're going to offer remote work, then you have to build policies. Obviously, we've never been in this position before where we actually had to make policies for it, but it's the new era, just the way when we got internet, when we got from fax to email, you had to build policies for that, how to work an email. And so now you just have to focus on making policies for remote working.
Yeah, so in being a manufacturer, we have to have people come in predominantly, and they have to come in at the same time because, every department supports the other. Our sales team has had the ability to work from home some. And so it's been real nice. We did establish a policy, just like Rosa mentioned. And, from time to time, things come up and you have to be able to make adjustments and communicate those adjustments. But, overall, it's been really good for us. I think that what I've found personally, it almost needs to be a balance of coming in to be a part of the team and understand the pulse of the business. And then also having a day or two at home per week so you can actively, reach out to your customers and do the things that you need to do outside of the business, because I've found personally that in the office, sometimes the water cooler talk or some other things happen, and it kind of pulls you away from your focus of what you're supposed to be doing. So I personally like a day or two from home, and that's a good balance for me, and it's a good balance for our business. But I'm probably the odd man here because I'm the only manufacturer.
I think it's definitely going to be part of the future, maybe even more so than what it is now. Just speaking personally, almost every candidate that I talk to for a professional level position, one of the questions they always ask in that initial phone screen is, what's your work from home options, and how many days per week, and is this an option for my role? It's super common now, and it's something that we've, I think, done really well with over the past 18 months. And something that we're going to adopt long term, having up to 2 days per week work from home if your position is able to do that. Of course, that raises questions on the other end of the spectrum, again, with our more entry level or hourly positions, where maybe their role doesn't allow them to do that, and so they're looking for some feedback to say, okay, well, what can you offer us, and how does this impact our particular group? And those are things that we're looking at and working through.
We're not working from home unless ordered by health authorities. It is impactful on a counter basis, in my opinion, to culture, and then it creates a double standard between office personnel and plant personnel. It impairs training and onboarding. It impairs real-time collaboration. We notice regularly on our customer service area that we respond to our customers, and it sounds like a pitch, and it's not, much more quickly than our competitors who are working from home, because they're 8 feet from each other. So call me the dinosaur of the group, but it's not happening at GL Huyett.
That's fair. So companies that are having remote workers, how are you dealing with training a new hire that is going to be remote? We touched on
this one. And the reason for that is because we're a larger organization. We have 34 locations worldwide. They're all over the place. The majority of people actually do work from home, especially like our territory managers, for example. And so this remote work was kind of nothing new for us. If you hire a manager, then we would fly them into the corporate office. They get to meet all the managers, obviously the president and COO. We do the training, we do the walkthrough, we do the tour, and then they pretty much stay with us for a whole week. And so we do that training that way when it comes to a manager. When it comes to a regular employee, we do ask them to come into the office maybe once or twice, a week until like probably the first 3 months. That being said, the majority of all our training is done via webinar. We've always used webinar, even pre-COVID. I do my rivet training through webinar. I just did our expenses, how to do expenses, how to do travel, because people forgot how to travel for the past 2 years. And so I literally had to do a travel webinar, a 2-parter just recently. And so it's something that we constantly do here at Brighton-Best, is we actually train Zoom all the time. And so I normally put up say, hey, I'm going to do an Excel webinar this week. Anybody that can join, please join in. The one thing that we do explicitly recommend or highly suggest is make sure you have your policies and your procedures in place, okay? Everybody knows that no matter what location you go to, whether you're at home or you're in office, the policies are the same, the procedures are the same, and it doesn't matter. So you literally can take a warehouse worker, for example, and put them in Chicago from Miami, and they're going to work exactly the same. And it's because everything we do, including the office work as well as outside sales work, is pretty much done the same way. But we constantly do webinars, probably once a week. I'm normally the one doing them. And it's something that we're constantly going. So I know who's coming to the webinars. It's not mandatory, whether it's an Excel sheet or a product training, like I did structural, bolts the other day. It's something that you come in and say, okay, I know who's going to these things because I actually see your face.
For us, we have our payroll company, Paychecks, has virtual training stuff on, our company culture, procedures and policies of the business. And, that gives us a lot of flexibility with our remote force. We also have, we've signed up for the IFI's training on products. So that's another virtual training that we're able to give. And then we have meetings within the different departments of our business. Within my department, where we do have remote folks, we always hold it on Teams, which is like a Zoom type platform, where we can record what was said. We can have a roll call, if you will, and then also include anyone that is remote on any trainings that we're doing. So it's working out, and there's always opportunities to make it better, which we're always looking at.
Yeah. So if I'm not a hiring manager, how can I help with hiring and retention? What would you recommend?
I think word of mouth is a huge one. Put it on your Facebook page, put it on your Twitter page, Instagram, let them know that, hey, your company's hiring. And, word of mouth comes better for retention because people say, oh, I know this person from my work. And so you can help literally by taking a posting that was posted on your company's social media page and sharing it on your page.
Yeah, I want to do that as well, and maybe volunteer yourself to participate in interviews, helping with the interview process, going to virtual or on-site job fairs, helping out with those types of things. I would just recommend partnering with your HR reps and seeing where they might need help.
Tim?
I don't have much else to add other than what's been suggested.
All right. Well, just real quick, I'll say, what Rosa said earlier with the recruitment bonus, I think that's a great way to get, your entire staff on board with bringing people to the table. Friends, family, and referrals that way from employees are always the best. They work out, way more likely to stick long term than someone off the street. And then, just making sure that, you give your employees the opportunity to feel like they're a part of it. So, being part of the interview process or bringing people on,
You're getting cut off, Matt.
Yep.
Sorry, can you see me? All right, so just the onboarding process and bringing different people on to be a part of that is important.
Thanks. All right, so this next question has to do with retention. What suggestions do you have to help with employee recognition other than raises or bonuses? Do you recommend activities to keep your current employees engaged?
So we offer service awards, so if you've been here 5, 10, 15, 20 years, we give you an award for that. We bring in a cake, we throw a little party for you, and then, bring in food for that. We also offer awards for people that do perfect attendance, that helps. People that have passed their last year's goals when it comes to shipping, for example, or their sales. We're also giving away, t-shirts, for example, and not necessarily like a uniform, but an actual t-shirt, just say, hey, thank you. It's harder for us in a way because, we have so many locations and I believe we have like 400 warehouse workers across the United States. And so, it's a little hard to manage that and when it comes to sizing and stuff like that, but, we're trying, we're not necessarily giving away money or bonuses, because to me, if you give them money, I mean, trust me, I would want it, but they're going to spend it on bills and that's kind of it. So you want something that's going to last a little longer to show a little more appreciation, and just the basic recognition of, hey, great job, helps a lot too.
Can I comment on that? This is Lisa Bratton.
Sure.
Sure. So one of the things that we did, especially working from home, it seems to be a lot harder to keep morale up. We do the service awards as well, like Rosa had mentioned. But one of the things we decided to do, maybe in the middle of last year, was we set a morale budget for all the managers so that every month they could do something with their team, whether it was play bingo online and give away Amazon gift cards or something like that, just to do a little bit of something. And I personally am struggling with my team because they're so busy and they don't want to take time out of their day to actually do something like this. So what I've done recently is I took a good portion of my budget and I'm buying them all like a movie package for home, like a snack pack on Amazon and a blanket. And it's like this care blanket that has all these nice, sayings on it. And I'm going to send them to their homes and I'm using my budget for that. So I think you just got to find other ways aside of, compensation to let them know that you care.
Agree.
That's great. Thank you, Lisa.
All right. So a comment from Mark here. We found that work from home solution has helped us to retain employees that are aging out or close to retirement. These employees are very valuable as they possess tribal knowledge that cannot easily be passed on. And I think that's a great observation. So, gotcha. All right. And so another question, do I need to check with HR before implementing any recruiting or retention ideas? I'll ask the HR person on the panel.
I would recommend yes. That is always a good idea, and there's a couple of reasons for that. First off, I think it's always great to partner with HR and brainstorm on different ways that you can accomplish goals, and especially around recruiting and things like that. So if you have a great idea, again, share it, discuss it, see where it could fit into the existing recruiting programs. Maybe if it's something that you think would work for your area or your department, it could potentially be something that could be rolled out, company-wide, and certainly that would be something that HR would support and be involved in. So yes, I would recommend that.
All right. And then what best practices can you guys share to keep employees happy in the industry and in the organization?
From our perspective at Field, like I mentioned in the beginning, we put quite a bit of effort this year into really asking a lot of questions and gathering a lot of feedback from the team and making sure that we're implementing as many of those suggestions as we can. Certainly some of the feedback revolves around enhancing benefit options or time off or flexible scheduling. And those are all things that we're looking at for next year. But we've also done other things like had the work from home option be a consistent thing going forward, or increasing our recognition programs that we have, or getting back to some of the community events or the team events that we had, pre-COVID, and making sure that the teams has opportunities to get back together and have fun like we did, prior to last year. So for us, it's been really good, again, asking for that feedback and then acting on as much as we can.
Even though we're in a time of COVID still, which is kind of crazy to think of, having opportunities to celebrate the small wins, whether it be the day, the week, or the month, being able to try to keep it light and not always work and pounding the pavement. So we celebrated birthdays a little bit more than normal this year. We have celebrated our anniversary as a company. And we have some other things outside of the business that we can do outdoors that's not going to risk anyone's health, to go out and half of it is just having something to look forward to that's fun that you can do with your coworkers. I think that's a big win, but just trying to keep it where it's it's not always just grinding all the time. And so we've, like I said, celebrated the small things a little bit more than normal. It seemed to have kept spirits a little bit higher.
couple things that we do an annual employee climate survey, and then we look at, where we don't score as high, and we develop an action plan on how to close that gap. And we also do a lot in the area of employee engagement. We have a diversity and inclusion committee of employees inside the firm. And one of the things that they do is they review our wages annually across what you might call protected class lines to ensure that our pay practices align to our goals for diversity and inclusion. We have an employee benefits advisory board that advises management on benefits design. For example, one of the things we implemented this past year is when you have 10 years of tenure, you receive self-directed PTO. And then the other committee that we have is we have an employee social committee that plans the picnic and the various things that we do. And the easiest way to get nominated for that committee is to bitch about the food at the picnic or something along those lines. That's your nomination speech.
Good. Well, we spend more time with our coworkers than we do with our family, so it's really important to make sure that your workday is at a minimum tolerable, hopefully enjoyable. All right. I think we're caught up with all the questions that we had in the chat, and we're coming right up to the end of our time. Unless anybody has any further questions, I'll let Kevin wrap it up.
No other questions? All right, well, just would like to thank our panelists and the moderator for a great program. It was a good discussion, a lot of good ideas I think were shared, and several things probably worth digging into and following up on for most of us. So we will send you a survey via email. We really do appreciate it if you take the time to fill that out. That helps us. And just a reminder, we're looking forward to tomorrow, the Fastener Professional of the Year virtual celebration honoring Jim Derry. So please join us for that if you're able. The event's free. You can register at the website, so it's easy to do. And just wrap up by thanking everyone for your participation. We know how busy everyone is, and appreciate you taking the time to share perspectives and ask good questions. Have a great day, everyone.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.